I'm starting to notice a bit of a theme with a lot of these highlight reels. There's a lot of Method Black doing this amazingly, Method Black doing that amazingly, and I guess there's a good reason for that. There's also a good reason that they are through to Sunday's top 3. They had a fantastic performance against Wildcard Game, knocking them down to lower, meaning, of course, that we will see them again later today. But first things first, we have our first elimination series of the day, which is of this round, which is DHDK Nation going up against Diabolus. Obviously, a great opportunity for Diabolus. Let's run through this a little bit. Change My Mind being eliminated. Diabolus, of course, with a victory here, would be top 4 today, which would look great for them going into patch 8.2 and potentially the summer finals.
Yeah, and like you mentioned already, Diabolus, formerly AWC, was the 4th seeded team from Europe heading into the spring final, so they barely made it. Now they have an opportunity to get ahead early on here, and they're gonna try to grab it for sure. Making top 4 would be great for them. Seeing how they made top 2 as well in spring finals, if they can repeat that performance, that would mean a qualification directly to BlizzCon. So a lot on the line here for Diabolus. Let's see if they can deliver.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Diabolus, with their performance at the spring finals, if that happened this summer, they would be going to BlizzCon. They came second at the spring finals, upset everyone, defeated Method Black in a reverse sweep. Now they're facing Elimination. DHDK, who already upset one team, are on a roll, and they don't look like they want to stop anytime soon.
All right, Diabolus have an opportunity to show us if Rogue Mage Druid is capable of overcoming this matchup, because Change My Mind were reluctant to run it. Here, Burley, Houston, and Joel, they've had a warm-up. I will say they improved drastically throughout their series against Change My Mind, so they're going to be at a pretty nice stance here against Diabolus. Burley getting silenced early on, which makes me wonder if Nixie's going to be pressuring the Shaman. Asgrath moves over to pressure the Shaman, and we may see a situation where Alec needs to crowd control the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight, very similarly to when we saw the Mew Mew Kitty Cat sub in Rosita Jones. So Alec's main objective should be Frost Nova and Blizzard on as many targets as possible, such as this in the center, and then avoid being attacked, and then double blink in to attack Burley whenever they're going for stun lock combos to remove that Ghost Wolf. If Alec can execute on that strategy, Asgrath and Nixie can stay on target, then I think Diabolus can take this. Of course, DHDK Nation can rotate defensive cooldowns, such as the Darkness, the Anti-Magic Zone, to prevent kills during these windows of time, and then slowly ramp up and try to Mana Rift Asgarath. I will say, though, Houston's positioning, I'd much rather see him next to Burley and not stacked up on Joel. They both just had a full Frost Nova 80 yards away from their healer, who is just being pressured down by Asgarath and Nixie. Alec looking to connect with that Frozen Orb. Burley manages to survive the attack for now. DHDK Nation, though, have limited offense, finally starting to pressure down Asgarath. I actually think Asgarath should ultimately be the target.
Yeah, it definitely could be, but Alec just really focusing on control in this matchup. Here's a big setup. Burley forced to trinket out. Alec finally getting in a position where he could get that Kleptomania spell steal overlapped with the kidney shot, and anytime that happens, it is scary for this Restoration Shaman. The next one is going to be devastating. You can see no Astral Shift, no trinket available for Burley in this matchup. Houston, of course, he does have the Darkness, but playing Relentless is a little bit of a gamble. It does reduce all of the incoming crowd control, but if Alec can land a full Frost Nova on Houston, he's not going to be able to, get in a position where he can actually drop that Darkness and help out Burley.
All right, let's see if they can get the crowd control and the burst executed here. They opt to trade the Anti-Magic Zone, more than a fair trade for Alec's Icy Veins. Easy exchange for DHDK Nation. Asgrath and Nixie, though, keeping up their hunt towards Burley to try and kill him. Of course, Pack Spirit, Spectral Recovery combined together, going to be super effective for the Shaman to stay alive. Effectively, you could just run around and Ghost Wolf and heal through a freight train. And deeper into dampening, it may become more difficult, or if Alec is able to get in position to spell steal the Ghost Wolf off, such as a situation like this, where Burley is stunned, that is a moment of opportunity for Diabolus to get a kill. But if they aren't able to, they can't strip off the Ghost Wolf, they can't burst him down in the stun, and he continues to survive. Asgarath's mana will start to dwindle away, and when he runs out of 0, then the damage from the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight is going to stick, and at that point, DHDK Nation will actually have the advantage.
And Asgarath finally getting swapped to. Lots of burst damage coming in from Houston and Joel. Asgarath has actually almost ran out of time in terms of mana. Burley's been able to survive. He almost has this trinket. He has the Astral Shift as a big setup attempt here from Diabolus, but if the game keeps playing out this way, I mean, if Burley can survive, this is going to be good. He drops the Spirit Link Totem. Good safe play there by Barely, but Diabolus, they're actually running out of time. I could easily see them losing this matchup. These Rogue Mage Druid teams are talking about how they just walk all over Demon Hunter Death Knight, but I've yet to be convinced of that, really. I mean, Barely, he's able to hold on, he's able to survive. Nixie trying to solo him down, but Askroth not really in the best position right now in terms of mana to play super aggressive. Burley into another kidney shot. Alec with the spell steal. This is an opportunity, but Barely does manage to survive once again. If he can get back into Ghost Wolf across the map, he's going to be A-okay.
They have to combine Bash and Kidney Shot. They can't kill Burley in just one stun. It has to be 2 stuns, if not even 3 stuns in succession to be able to kill the Shaman, and that's only going to be happening when Vanish is available, Bash is available, or Asgarath, if he's running Feral Affinity, can stealth and then stun. But right now, Nixie has just been doing Kidney Shots on cooldown, and I really don't like that. I think that they should be timing the stuns when Alec can get there. Once Alec has got crowd control on the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight, if they remain uncoordinated, then they're effectively attacking a brick wall. This Shaman will take absolutely 0 damage unless they all coordinate together. And at that point, Asgarath is just going to run out of mana. So DHDK Nation are actually looking good here in game number 1. I think the disadvantage that the Shaman brings is that deep and dampening, they have to cast heals, and if you have to cast heals and you're the only one casting spells, there's 2 interrupts, so you will be interrupted and your team will die and get overwhelmed. But that situation only happens if Asgarath has mana, which he doesn't. So right now, unless Diabolus clean up their offense, start chaining their stuns together, DHDK Nation are looking good to take game 1.
Yeah, they're looking great. Barely once again, he's just holding on. He's doing a good job rotating through his defensives. Houston finally able to get some good counter pressure off onto Asgarath, who's activated his Barkskin. He's trying to cross the map. He's trying to avoid the mana rifts. Alec with good backup. Really good control, honestly, from Alec in this matchup so far. His Novas, his Ice Novas, his Freezes from his pet has just been on point. He's been able to really try to deny Houston and Joel lots of momentum in the matchup, but slowly but surely they've still been able to get the mana lead. Asgarath sitting down for a drink right now. That gets interrupted, unfortunately. Now he has to wait to get out of combat so he can try to sit down for a drink, but Houston jumps over, a nice stun into a mana rift once again. Asgarath almost completely tapped on mana. Burley, it's a different story. The thing about training down a Restoration Shaman is he basically doesn't use any mana to heal himself. So at this point in the game where Asgarath's completely out of mana, Burley, he hasn't used any mana to keep himself alive. Now he has a full mana bar where he can throw out purges, and DHDK Nation can get really aggressive.
Yep, I would like to see DHDK Nation turn the tables here and just go aggressive. Burley's more than survived long enough. Although, wait for the Vendetta, then make the play. I mean, there's no Icy Veins, there's no Vendetta. You still have Astral Shift, Spirit Link Totem's coming up. You still have Anti-Magic Zone. You have every single cooldown. You have the Druid out of mana. I think now is the time where you start to play aggressive. Spend some of that mana, get some Flame Shock, get some Purges, get some Lava Bursts. Houston getting sapped out of the crowd control. Nixie trying to do everything he can for his team to stall. They go for the game-winning stun here onto Burley, but Anti-Magic Zone is available, so DHDK Nation can burn through these cooldowns one by one and then overwhelm with Purges, I believe, here shortly, if Burley feels confident to do so. He is being pressured. He has to navigate it closely, because if he gets stunned out of Ghost Wolf, then he could easily actually lose the game, but also adding Purges could just end the game and win the map for his team. And DHDK Nation, they're coming into the tournament as a fresh roster. They took out Change My Mind in a surprising fashion, and now looking to do the same to Diabolus. I mean, Asgarath, Alec, Nixie, these 3 guys, they're 2017 BlizzCon champions. DHDK Nation, they're just some pals stepping into the tournament together for the first time and really taking it to the previous champs.
Yeah, all it takes is the power of teamwork and friendship sometimes. Alec gets bursted down to around 30% health. He's got no ice blocks for another 4 minutes, but Asgarath trying to create pressure on the Restoration Druid with that Feral Affinity. He's got no mana left. Burley, he can afford to start throwing out a few Purges, but I really feel like this matchup is going hugely in favor of DHDK Nation. Burley's got no trinket. Can they take him down? And a huge all-in. If they have the damage to take him down, this would be an absolute miracle. There's no darkness, there's no anti-magic zone. Burley, he just trades out the Spirit Link Totem. He realizes they're at the finish line. He doesn't want to throw away the game, but he doesn't get much health. Nixie kills it off almost instantly. Burley's still in some trouble. Astral Shift, Earthen Wall Totem. He's throwing out Purges to try to take down Alec. Alec could easily just fall right now and end up wilt falling in this matchup. DHDK Nation take game number 1 against Diabolus. It's completely unexpected. And I mean, all these Rogue Mage Druids, they were talking about the strategy, but it hasn't seemed to work out on broadcast just yet.
Certainly not against the Shaman version, at
Yes.
least. I mean, the only team we've seen have victory over the Shaman was, I guess, last week. We saw Never Lucky with the kind of Kleptomania Fire Mage all in, but here, once again, DHDK Nation upset the odds to take down another top contender in Europe, Diabolus.
Yeah, it seems to me like the Fire Mage is the missing ingredient here in a lot of these matchups, because they couldn't really take down Burley in the stunlock, and of course Asgareth is just running out of mana at this point in the game. There's not really much they can do. They're never gonna let Asgareth drink here on the side of DHDK Nation, so all Diabolus really can do is try to set up the perfect one-shot opportunity, and of course when that is happening, Alec is immediately caught up in that big imprisonment. He can't use any ice blocks to get out of it. He doesn't have a trinket. He can't really do anything, and Alec is just getting immediately shut down. Burley dropping a Spirit Link Totem and just goes immediately on the offense. He has a lot of mana to work with. Dampening isn't really too high yet for him to kind of have to cast and force his Ghost Wolf to not be enough, and DHDK Nation can just take it. So we know that Nixie plays Windwalker.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see, right? Because the Windwalker Mage didn't actually win the series for Change My Mind either. It's honestly a bit of a conundrum here for some of these European teams. The DHDK Druid, they figured out, took them long enough because Method Black dominated an entire season with that composition. Now a slight adaptation here. The DHDK Shaman seems to have thrown everyone for a loop once again in this tournament.
This is when you use Walrus. This is when you play Mage, Warlock, Druid.
Is this the time for
Demon
Warrocks?
Hunter Death Knight composition 9-0'd Mew Mew Kitty Cats and prevented them from qualifying. And the comp that was always beating Method Orange was the Mage, Warlock, Druid of C9. And that was the reason you put Walrus on the roster, was to utilize Mage, Warlock, Druid. So this is the time that you use Walrus. This is the time where that roster change is supposed to make the most sense.
Yep, and they've chosen Tolva on Arena, indicating that they might want to go for some Wizards here. I just find it so hilarious when I'm watching a game like that, because Burley is literally just running around in Ghost Wolf, not pressing any buttons, because if he presses buttons, he leaves Ghost Wolf and he makes himself vulnerable. So he has 4 mana the entire game. He comes out once to purge at the very end, and they win the game flat out off that. So it really didn't look good at all for Diabolus at any point. And now DHDK Nation, I mean, they did lose the big maps to the Windwalker Mage, so do you think we just go straight in with an MLD? I mean, I guess the team has the advantage that they know exactly what DHDK Nation's going to play no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like we saw C9. Obviously, C9 is probably going to be the better Mage Lock Druid here if you compare the two, just because, you know, Diabolus, they literally just got Warwicks on the roster, but C9 would pick Mage Lock Druid even on small maps and win. So yeah. I feel like it's a good way to win the swing match, but we also knew that it looked pretty easy for Change My Mind playing the Windwalker Mage, so I feel like Diabolus have 2 winning compositions on this particular map. Once we go to a small map, though, I think they should just go with the Mage Lock Druid, and even here on the big map, they are going to go for the Mage Lock Druid. I think it makes sense.
So talk to me a little bit, guys. What are we really looking for Diabolus to do in this matchup, since it's been a little while since we saw Cloud9 against Method Orange?
Well, I mean, the one thing Diabolus has going for them now is that they have 2 sort of defenders of Asgarath. So they have not only the spammable Fear from Walrus, they also have, you know, Alec, who can spam up Polymorphs and Novas and, you know, really keep Houston in place. It's going to be much easier for Asgarath to escape, get out of combat, recover his mana, which, as we saw in the last game, really is the main win condition of DHDK Nation later on in the game, because I expect this one to go on for quite some time, and dampening the Death Knight becomes a huge vulnerability where, you know, both the Frost Mage and the Destruction Warlock can kind of just tee off on him the entire game, at least until later, and he's just not going to be able to heal himself up. He's going to get snared up, he's going to get rooted, and I feel like slowly but surely Diabolus will develop a lead.
Yeah, I mean, certainly this is a matchup not only that matters for Europe, but this is something that we talk about Method Orange, we talk about Cloud9. Tomorrow, guys, and tune in for tomorrow's broadcast because it's going to be fantastic. We are going to have Cloud9 versus Method Orange as one of our first leading games in the North American top 8. It could well be a replica of this game that we play out right now, the Mage Lock Druid against the Resto Shaman Demon Hunter Death Knight. And I mean, whoever wins here could well sign signal over to what goes on over there. So Europe maybe leading here, but then again, we've seen that North America's actually been leading the meta a little bit this year.
Cloud9's strategy is crowd control the Demon Hunter. just remove the Demon Hunter from the game. Don't let Houston get any global cooldowns off, and you can do that when you have Fear and Polymorph and Frost Nova. Just crowd control the Demon Hunter, remove Mana Rift from the game, and then Asgrath will have full mana, you're in dampening, and you kill the Death Knight. That is the simplest way of explaining the strategy for the Mage, Warlock, Druid. You don't want to fall into the trap of trying to net a kill prior to dampening. The self-healing on the Demon Hunter and the Death Knight is just far too high with the lack of a Mortal Wounds effect on the composition. But you're not lacking crowd control, so you can already see they're just polymorphing the Death Knight, fearing the Demon Hunter, switching the Fear and the Poly likely to the opposite target, now polying the Demon Hunter, fearing the Death Knight, just crowd controlling them, preventing them from attacking, building any momentum or getting any mana rifts. And then a situation can happen deep in dampening where the only weird thing that could go wrong in that strategy is if Burley is also full mana and purges from the Shaman end up being a game deciding factor. And that's the one thing that I haven't seen yet between this type of play that the teams are bringing, is what happens if the Shaman and the Druid are equal on mana deep in dampening. Is it still go in favor of Diabolus, or can the Shaman be the factor that actually makes it in favor of DHDK Nation? And that's really going to decide the rest of the series, because otherwise Diabolus can just run this strategy on every single map. Frost Nova the Demon Hunter, although they're not timing it when they stun Asgarath, so right here they're actually getting a mana rift. Although they can crowd control him for so long that it's likely that Asgarath just regenerates the mana that was rifted every, whatever, the better part of 30 seconds. So it could just work spamming crowd control the way that they are rather than timing it during the stuns. Asgarath should just run around in stealth, avoid them at all costs, and just wait for dampening.
Yeah, Alec doing a good job. You can watch in this game, he's going to be spamming out the Pet Freeze, Ice Novas, Frost Novas, Polymorph. That's the main mini game. Asgaroth just kiting Houston through his Mage trying to back him up in the game. That way he can escape, get out of combat, avoid the mana rifts, drink as much as possible. And Walrus needs to try to start finding some damage in this matchup if he can. But Joel, he's been doing a really good job shutting him down so far in this game. And this is probably one of those games that is going to require 20-30% dampening.
I think 30-40.
30-40% dampening. Diabolus, they have to hold on to their mana until that point. That's when they really start securing an advantage where they can take down a high hit point target like Joel, like Houston. These guys can heal themselves for quite a bit on the Death Knight and the Demon Hunter, but later on in the game, that healing just gets nerfed by so much because of dampening that they eventually just fall down.
I think I would like to see potentially from DHDK Nation is using their interrupts in succession to stop crowd control when they're using offensive cooldowns. So the Raise Abomination is definitely one, or the Metamorphosis, or the I-Beam. So saving their interrupts when they have these cooldowns to enhance their damage, saving their stuns for those moments of opportunity as well. That way they can get some uptime during their cooldowns, which is the most important time to be attacking a target, is during your offensive cooldowns. And then maybe they can net a kill or build some momentum or force Asgarath to spend a little bit more mana than usual. So far, their interrupts are on cooldown. We've got Wind Shear for Burley, can interrupt for Houston, but he's polymorphed around the corner. Asgarath certainly actually should be trying to drink. His mana is not as high as I expected at this point with how much crowd control has been tossed at DHDK Nation, but Burley looks like he's even trying to chase Asgarath around the map. And this is that situation where if it's deep in dampening, I'm not actually sure. I think the Shaman might be able to add enough momentum to the team and then Grounding Totem to stop crowd control, and they might be able to push the Warlock over with spam purges. So unless Asgarath is also matched on mana, I actually think DHDK Nation can take this. And right now, mana is already down to half, even despite the crowd control from Diabolus.
I think that's completely fair to say. I mean, Asgaroth, he hasn't been able to sneak away for a drink just yet. DHDK Nation, they did a phenomenal job in their last series we saw today against Change My Mind. They're doing a great job here. Walrus has been under pressure. Walrus really hasn't been able to get out too much damage whatsoever. And, I mean, although Diabolus, they have been managing to hold on, Alex been doing a good job getting control on Houston. They haven't found any damage. There's no offense here from Diabolus. They're just kind of waiting until dampening to get really anything rolling, but you can see Ray of Frost going to be channeled out onto Houston. Asgarath gets into stealth. He's trying to line of sight. He's trying to avoid Houston at all costs. But Alec has just been so distracted trying to stop Houston that their damage output is just so limited.
All right, let's see if Asgarath can manage to drink. I mean, his mana is not good enough. That is a losing mana pool at the moment. Burley's moving over to snipe Asgarath. He slips away from the Capacitator Totem, crosses the map. Burley doesn't see him because he's in stealth, so Asgarath repositioned. Burley actually anticipated that Asgarath would change sides, but gets caught into a fear. So Asgrath is regenerating some mana, I believe, here. Alec tried to Frost Nova them before they could connect. He did get some back, but certainly not equal with Burley, and we already saw that the purges from Burley in the last game were effective to net a kill. If he can have max mana as well, I'm almost wondering if this matchup is even that one-sided to the Mage Warlock, or if they need to change the way they're playing. I mean, Cloud9 focused on crowd control, but not nearly to this extent. They would time their crowd control during mana rifts and then also counter-engage a little bit. Like, they wouldn't let Burley just sit in midfield doing whatever he wants. I think that they would attack him a bit, try and force him away, switch targets a little more frequently. Right now, Diabolus are just playing this almost predictably. Just their crowd control is just, as soon as the diminishing return is over, they're putting a player into crowd control. In the meantime, Joel has actually got a huge necrotic strike stacked up on Walrix, which absorbs healing, that darkened part of his health bar. Okay, yeah, it's immediately healed through, I guess, from Asgarath as he comes back and pulls it through. I was actually wondering if Walrix 1v1ing the Death Knight was going to surmount to that necrotic strike overwhelming him. I actually think that Joel's also running the zombie build. I need to try and pay a little bit closer attention. So that's actually a nice strategy if he can connect those zombies while Alec is too busy dealing with Fuston. That could be some % health damage to get a kill, but at this point, I think DHDK Nation are going to take it. I mean, Diabolus have no control of their mana. They're almost totally tapped. Burley's at full. They have every defensive cooldown on DHDK Nation, and at any moment, Burley can flip the switch, start getting out some purges, and I think at that point, Walrus falls down.
Yeah, anti-magic zone gets dropped out. Walrus needs to try to maneuver his way out of that. Otherwise, Joel and Fuston, they can just get aggressive and really not have to worry about taking damage whatsoever. Alec with the Icy Veins finally starting to get some pressure rolling, but keep in mind, that was the Icy Veins, that was the Dark Soul. Joel, all he did was straight out the anti-magic zone. He still has the anti-magic shell. Burley with Spirit Link Totem, with his trinket, in a prime position to stay alive, and it's actually Walrix that's in trouble. Stun on Asgrath. Do they have the damage to take him down? Walrix in panic mode drops out the Infernals to try to counter-engage Mortal Coil onto Joel as well, but he easily denies any incoming damage with that anti-magic shell. Walrix, that was such a scary moment. And Diabolus, they traded out essentially everything. Burley's mana, completely fine. Asgrath almost completely tapped at this point. And now Walrix, if he's left alone for too long, those big necrotic strikes we saw Joel being able to stack up are really going to start paying off. All
right, Burley's chasing down Asgrath. I think they should just purge and win the game. I mean, there's no defense for 40 seconds. Just start attacking. Burley instead walks out and gets polymorph, so now he can't add to the fight, although Asgrath can't really regenerate mana. I think as soon as Burley is out of crowd control, Walrix is dead. If he isn't already dead. And I mean, this is quite telling because Method Orange were getting stomped by Cloud9 in this exact matchup. So if DHDK Nation can suddenly beat Mage Warlock Druid in the matchup, what does that say for tomorrow when we see Method Orange go up against Cloud9? Perhaps if they're watching, or we're going to get to see if Cloud9 plays the matchup the same way as Diabolus, or what are the differences? Because right now, I don't think that Cloud9 were ever under this much stress that Diabolus currently are in the matchup. Burley is polymorphed. We are getting to that 40% dampening mark where the Death Knight is then deleted from the game. So if they can manage to make it to that point, they could actually still find the kill onto the Death Knight, but it's not looking likely. Walrix is overwhelmed. Ironbark needs to be enough, but now there's absolutely no mana left in the tank. I'd love to see Burley almost just stand on top of Walrix, use Grounding Totem, mash out some purges, close the game out while there's no defense and no mana. You don't even really need to stop drinks at this point. Just use Spirit Link, use Darkness, stay on top of the Warlock, and just outright kill him. They need to stop crowd control more frequently. This polymorph on Burley is slowing down their assault, and Asgrath was actually able to sneak away. I would love to see Burley just trinket aggressively, use Link and kill the Warlock. I mean, there's no defense, there's still no mana. Joel is getting deleted. I feel like Burley is waiting far too long for this moment. He's not able to get the Tremor Totem out. Now he's got no Gliders Medallion. He had a bit of a panic attack. Now he's Frost Nova out of range. He had to dispel himself. He can't dispel his partners if they get feared. Joel is going to sit a full fear. That Walrix would otherwise be dead if he wasn't feared, but he may just die anyway. Walrix is finally going to get overwhelmed. Things looked like they were falling apart for DHDK Nation, but outside of that maybe 3-second period of time, they were winning the entire match.
Well, you were right. At that point in the game, it's just Purge City for Burley. He was able to just throw out those offensive purges. There's nothing that Asgrath could do. He had no mana. There's no heal over time effects. Walrix is just slowly but surely going to fall down. And I can't believe it, honestly, that that happened.
It's not even that slow, to be honest. Like, we're used to Magelog Druid games going, you know, deep dampening here. As long as they can get those mana rifts onto Askaraf, they get him by about the time dampening starts, and DHDK Nation are 2-0 up in this series. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, this was just like the surface of dampening. It wasn't really that deep. You know, Warwick's, the big story here is Askaraf actually just couldn't get away and get drinks. This is the, you know, the largest map available. You're playing Mage Lock Druid. We've seen this matchup play out so many times, and every single time the Druid gets pressured even to like 80 or 70% mana, he's able to get away and get drinks, and often it's at the back of, you know, the cross CC. The Mage just lands a Polymorph, or, you know, the Warlock lands a Fear onto the enemy Shaman, and that's it. You get one Nova onto Fuse Stun, and, you know, it's such a big space to, you know, cover as a Demon Hunter that it's just really, really difficult to reach, go behind the pillar, and actually stop the enemy healer. But here, you know, DHDK Nation doing basically what we saw them do against Change My Mind, pressuring the Druid, getting him out of mana, keeping him out of mana, and then finding the kill later on onto Warwick's. This was really nice.
Yeah, really clean. You know, they got the stuns into the mana rifts, they get the epidemics up, keep stopping those drinks, win the game here early. You know, we're looking at 40+% dampening for MLD to win some of these games here. It's a nice breeze in the park at 24% dampening for these guys to survive. It's an epidemic here at the AWC. DHDK are running away with the tournament right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Arena World Championship, second cup here of the summer season. European top 8 playing out right now. We've got our last 6 teams remaining, and soon it will be 5 after this series, Elimination Series. I am hosting HealingStat, and we do have Venruki, Supertees, and Zico on the desk joining us here for this series. And honestly, it's been a day of upsets. You know, we saw earlier Change My Mind losing down to this DHDK Nation team, kind of a spin-off of the DK Windwalker team we saw before. Burley, the common healer, a new DK and a new Demon Hunter coming in, and they are now 2-0 up against another top team, you know, Diabolus, formerly ABC, who came second at the Spring Finals, former BlizzCon champions, and now completely up against it in Game 3 of this series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Diabolus is going to do at this point. The Rogue Mage Druid didn't work out. You can see they only have 1 second left, and they're going to be going with sort of a, I guess, a curveball in this matchup. It's going to be Walrix once again coming in on the Destruction Warlock. He kind of made his debut for this team in this tournament, and they've been implementing quite a bit, but unfortunately, they haven't really found too much success so far. This is kind of interesting. I'm not exactly sure what they're going for with this pick.
Get it.
I feel like this
Why
is...
not the Fire Mage Rogue Pally if you're going to try this?
Do you think it might just be that they don't have the Fire Mage ready?
You don't think Alec can play Fire?
I mean,
if Alec can't play Fire, I'm going to be very disappointed in European mages. I'm going to be honest with you.
So what's
you say that, but there's no North American roster.
I'm disappointed in names. Okay, I'll be disappointed.
They have 2 mages and they're playing 1 spec each.
Okay,
you know, I'm just saying.
I'll be disappointed in all mages.
Yeah,
yes.
so am I.
This is some of these mages back to competing by the sounds of things.
Well, as a competing mage, you should be able to play all 3 specs of your class. That's like, I feel like that's obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that, but what does the Warlock bring here? Because obviously, like, we were kind of joking during the break that, you know, we got to 24% dampening and we barely kind of scratched the surface of that dampening. It wasn't enough to take down this team. When we see the RM Paladin, they kill the Shaman with Kleptomania. They don't have Kleptomania here.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You say, what does the Destruction Warlock bring? It brings a great target for DK.
Yeah, it brings auto defeat.
It brings a great target for DK, DH Nation to just train the entire game and shut down, and I don't know where their window of opportunity is with this one.
They can reverse Magic Hammer of Justice. Why is the Paladin, why is there a Paladin?
Well, the Paladin I like. The Paladin's nice offensively, don't you think? We saw the RM Paladin winning.
It is nice offensively, but you don't, like you said, you don't have the Kleptomania. Once he's in Ghost Wolf, he's a tank. He's a Panzer tank, is what you said.
I got corrected. It's a Tiger tank.
Oh, it's a Titan tank. Come on, man.
You're letting the team down.
Don't let the Twitch chat win, man. It's a Panzer tank.
It's a Panzer tank.
But anyways, the Restoration Trauma, they're so durable. Without, I mean, the one thing that is scary for them is a kidney shot with Kleptomania. And that's not, I mean, if they take him down...
Maybe they play triple Blood Elf.
Okay.
And they all try and
maybe you're right.
And they dispel it. I don't know.
I mean, I play Fury Warrior Windwalker on the ladder a lot, and we play sometimes the Blood Off Racial to Purge, but it's very RNG. You know, one purge every 2 minutes is exactly a Kleptomania. 30 seconds removes everything, right?
Yeah.
There's no disarm either. There's no way to stop the self-healing. There's no way to stop the Ghost Wolf. So you're just fighting 3 classes that are going to take 0 damage against the comp. You don't bring any counter to their healing effects that are so strong.
Well, I would say the one thing that the Warlock brings is an extended stun lock. I mean, you can get the Kidney Shot into the Hammer of Justice, into the Mortal Coil, so you have a long stun lock duration. But with that said, if the Shaman is in Ghost Wolf, I feel like that's just a longer duration of him healing. He's out healing all the damage. They're gonna have to set up, you know, a big Chaos Bolt in that long window, and even then
they have anti-magic zone, darkness, grounding totem.
Okay, again, it's a bad matchup. I'm trying to find something
I'm trying to think of
here about
why
this
they think it's a good matchup. Like,
well, there's got to be some reason, right?
Why? What?
I mean,
they're sitting in their call right now, trying to discuss this matchup.
Yeah.
What do they? Where's the light? I don't know.
Do you just think it's aggression? I mean, like, because basically that's what's going to happen, right? Like, as dampening gets deeper, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but ultimately the light's going to get sucked up from around them. And now, like, they have the aggression here. Like, Paladins do a lot of damage. That's why one of the reasons Iron Paladin is potentially better than RMD in some of these matchups. But I mean, they're going to need a lot of dampening to actually win this. Don't you guys agree? I mean,
well,
it seems ridiculous.
Let's just analyze the matchup, okay? The Demon Hunter, let's be real, he's not going to go down.
Yeah.
The DK, he's not going to go down. I mean, if you get like,
what's the magic number that you need of dampening?
Well, according to Sid, at 40%, you don't even need to press any buttons. The DK is just deleted from the
DK button.
But the thing is, the Paladin, he's not going to have that easy of a time to go away and drink. I mean, let's be honest here. If the DK just has basic pet control, the Paladin doesn't have a Shadow Meld. The Paladin can't just root the pet and run away and read stuff and drop aggro. The Paladin can't do anything about that. He's just going to, you know, have to conserve his mana really well. So as long as Fuston keeps mana rifting him, the Paladin will lose on mana. So that means they're on a timer to kill somebody. I feel like the 2 melees are not going to go down, so they have to kill the Shaman. But even then, I feel like I don't know. The Shaman should live.
So there's, I feel like there's 2 things that are going on right now. Either Burley, Fuston, and Joel are like infinitely better than Method 9 in the Mage Warlock matchup.
Method 9?
Or sorry, Method Orange. Or Cloud 9. Or Cloud 9 is infinitely better at the Mage Warlock Druid, which I would probably argue is more true, but we've seen like very limited Shamans have any sort of success. Burley and his new team just come into the tournament and they just toss away Change My Mind. They're just fiddling around with Diabolus now in the lower bracket to the point where they're locking in a composition that makes absolutely no sense on paper in this specific matchup. I mean, they're effectively attacking 3 targets that can't die to their comp. They have no counters. They have no disarms. They have no purges. They can't remove any of this healing. The only thing that they maybe have is a gigantic Chaos Bolt, but there's 10 different things they can do to stop one gigantic Chaos Bolt. Even in this situation, they could just use the darkness, use an anti-magic zone, use something. I mean, this is a lot of damage. Blur with the leech healing from Fuston should be enough for him to sustain while Burley is crowd controlled. If it isn't, Fuston is actually running Nether Walk, so he has a similar cooldown to Ice Block. He can go immune to damage, which he just did right before the stun. They actually dropped Smoke Bomb into it. Maybe they're just trying to wait for it to end and then kill him. Burley walks into a big mistake here. Burley could have Tremor Totemed the Sphere. They do manage to survive. There is decent damage onto the Demon Hunter. The Nether Walk keeps him alive for the Smoke Bomb, but there's still Infernals. There's still Vendetta. The composition is looking a lot more promising on the Demon Hunter than I think any of us could have anticipated, but still, if they don't get a kill on him earlier, then I do expect Walrix to be overwhelmed.
I mean, keep in mind, Burley sat a full blind, Shadow Meld into a sap, Nixie runs back, Vanish saps him, into a sap, into a Garrote Silence, and I mean, Burley didn't even have to trade out the Spirit Link. So it was a scary moment for Fuston, but you know, Blur isn't necessarily the longest cooldown for them to get. They still have a lot that they can really work through. Now it's Walrix who's on the back foot. He's used the Unending Resolve. Divine Shield's been used. Diabolus just falling behind in terms of defensive cooldowns, and Blur once again going to get activated by Fuston in that moment. But it's Walrix that's in the most trouble. It is going to be the blessing of protection that comes in from Asgroth, and that will be enough for him to survive. Now Full Fear over on a Burley. Fuston could be in some trouble. He drops out the darkness, going to be leech healing off of Nixie while in Metamorphosis, getting a lot of off healing in this situation. Burley looking for a fake cast on the kick from Nixie, but he doesn't have it available. Now full kidney shot. Spirit Link Totem is forced out, and I have to say, Diabolus has a lot more pressure in this game than I first anticipated.
That's the thing with Netherwalk. I'm pretty sure you drop Soul Rending, which enhances your leech healing, so your consistent ability to heal yourself is much lower when you're running Netherwalk, but you can survive a big hit window, which Houston was able to. Burley just trinket the blind. Okay, Burley is going to trinket the blind. I feel like that was like the only way that they could lose is if Burley just sits everything and they don't make any fair trades. But there is a lot more damage going out onto Houston than anticipated.
That's it. Good night.
It's over. Diabolus pull it off, going after the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. We really thought that that was going to go in favor of DHDK, but Houston, we have a problem, and Diabolus are able to pull through with the victory there. Honestly, I think a part of this for me is that I'm so used to playing on the live servers where Demon Hunters are literally immortal. Like, I mean, not literally immortal, right? But before dampening, you're not going to kill them because they have so many access to like the Crucible items, etc. But we have to bear in mind on the tournament server, they don't have access to a lot of those really tanky items, and then potentially there is an exposed weakness there for Diabolus to exploit.
Well, I feel like Burley should just trinket blind. That's where they got all of their cooldowns. And the Demon Hunter, I mean, Houston, you should be playing Soul Rending. I think Soul Rending is a pretty good ability to have, considering you just auto-attack people and you leech 70%, I think, of the damage you do. You get so much healing from that, especially during these crowd control chains. So I'm not sure. There's a couple of talent choices, definitely, that the Demon Hunter could have swapped over to. Didn't really expect this to be the result, but in the Diabolus credit, this was a very surprising result. I feel like the Demon Hunter it was the best target for them to pick, but with that said, I feel like just trade Trinket for blind, and you're not going to be in a situation where you're using Ascendance, you're using all the Demon Hunter buttons that you have available, and you can just kind of space out your CDs a little bit better.
So with that said, do you think this is a repeatable victory for Diabolus? Or do you still give the advantage to DHDK?
I would still give the compositional advantage to DHDK any day.
Okay, fair enough. So DHDK is still potentially in the lead, but Diabolus, at least they put something on the board, right? It's very important that they came out with something here because they faced Elimination. You know, this is their big opportunity to get a top 4 finish in one of these tournaments, make big strides towards the summer finals. They do find something, and finally we actually get to see them use Warwicks, right? Because Warwicks was the addition to this roster in place of Jamie, and I mean, quite frankly, from my point of view, I feel like they've been missing Jamie more often than not so far, so it was important for Warwicks to get this victory here.
Yeah, like we said, they've been implementing Walrus. Basically, his debut was in this tournament for this roster, and they didn't have the greatest success early on, but that was a pretty convincing win.
It was.
I mean, I feel like DHDK Nation, they made a few mistakes in terms of just, like Zico said, when trinkets were used, certain talents maybe potentially could be a little bit better as well, but they had a lot of pressure from start to finish. I mean, that's kind of how you expect games to go when Walrus is in it.
Yeah.
On the Warlock, I mean, normally it's just pressure from start to finish, lots of control over the game, and he had a great performance.
Yeah, I mean, this is a meta where we've seen a lot of Warlocks, not necessarily saying it's a Warlock meta because, you know, there's a lot of Rogue Mage and other compositions that have been excelling as well, but here, when there are Warlocks around, you expect Warwicks to be one of them, and he's starting to find his footing in this meta. That said, his team's still completely up against it here. They need 2 more to complete the reverse sweep, and not necessarily even in a favorable matchup.
I think if they change their talents, run the Soul Rending for the consistent self-healing, pick a smaller map, and play defensive at the pillar, so if the Demon Hunter is the only target then, and dies and stuns, and just focuses on surviving, I mean, the Paladin is going to burn out of mana faster than the Shaman, most certainly. So if they just protect the Demon Hunter, because he's now shown as at least a little bit of a vulnerability, although I think that's more attributed to the swap out of Soul Rending. I think it's a much better trade to Trinket Blind than to use Netherwalk and lose out on what makes Demon Hunter so strong, which is the Soul Rending enhancing their leech healing effects. So stay with the Soul Rending, focus more on just staying alive. Burley was kind of playing out in the middle a lot too. He got feared quite a bit, so instead of running out in the middle, if they don't have a Tremor Totem to make the push, just come back to the pillar, say run away. I mean, you don't have to be attacking the Warlock at all times if you need to move away and just avoid damage at that point. I think doing it sooner will be a better choice, and on a smaller map they'll be able to do it more frequently.
Yeah, how impactful do you think the smaller map is, Zico?
I'm actually not even sure if the smaller map is going to be a favorable thing for DHDK Nation, because they're the team that wants to survive. I feel like Diabolus is the team that's on the clock, so I think that you're gonna reach Warwick's no matter what the map is pretty easily. I mean, you can just go out, death grip him, and then he's not gonna go anywhere. But on a smaller map, I feel like Nixie has a lot easier time to actually reach the Demon Hunter, and you know, on a large map, he could get Chains of Ice. The Demon Hunter could just kite around the pillar if he ever ran out of cooldowns. And likewise, Askerath would have to push a much bigger distance as well to actually land those Hammers of Justice. So I feel like there's good things and bad things about this map. I think Askerath is going to be susceptible to getting mana rifted a lot more on a smaller map, which is a big plus, of course, for DHDK Nation. But likewise, I think Diabolus is going to be able to dish out a lot more pressure on a smaller map, and it's not going to be that much benefit to their offense on the side of DHDK Nation.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how it plays out. Diabolus still face elimination here, guys. If you're a big fan of Alec, Nixie, and Asgraf, you know, the former BlizzCon champions, guys that came second at the spring finals, then you'll want to see them do well here, because this is the opportunity for them going into the summer season to catch up with Change My Mind, but they need to reverse sweep this.
Yeah, the original AWC roster with a kicker of Walrix, now known as Diabolus. Their backs are against the wall. They won the last game, but they're still one game away from being eliminated from this tournament. Good pressure early on the Fuston. Once again, we'll have to see what talents he's actually picking up.
He is running the soul rending.
So now he has a lot more self-healing. That's what you would normally expect. The DK, the Demon Hunter normally aren't easy targets to take down, especially now that he can heal himself up just a little bit more. Unfortunately for Fuston in these matchups so far, he hasn't been able to land many consistent mana rifts onto Asgarath. He did trinket out early on, so if Fuston can get over, land another stun into mana rift, that's when they can start developing that mana lead we normally see a DHDK sort of have.
All right, the Dark Soul of Walrix is going to be able to pull some important abilities. It forced Burley to trinket blind. I wouldn't even say force, so I think it's a fair trade, but Infernals and Vendetta available, so they could go for a big double punch here. Diabolus have opportunities to kill Fuston outright if he's not careful. He's trying to run away, but gets caught before he can get around the corner. Two members are stunned. Fuston opts to trinket and activate Blur to trade for Vendetta, but it may not even be enough on its own. This is a surprising amount of pressure, and Nixie's actually running a very weird honor talent. I actually would almost wonder if we have a damage meter to figure out how much damage it's actually doing. He's running mind-numbing poison, which is when the caster casts a spell, they take a little bit of extra damage. Now, I didn't think that a Demon Hunter was using a lot of spells, and some of the abilities make sense to be spells, but if every single ability that a Demon Hunter uses is considered a spell, they're basically spamming them. This could be adding into what is creating the pressure for Diabolus.
I mean, this certainly would be the case. It would be a lot of added damage. Asgarath already 50% mana, so this map could be backfiring on Diabolus. Walrix in a little bit of trouble right now, has to activate the Unending Resolve, and I really like what Fuston's doing. He's not afraid to just run away like we kind of talked about, but you can see Burley now in a full fear. Fuston, he's got no trinket, he's got nothing. This could be a problem. Nixie gets the full kidney shot, anti-magic zone dropped out by Joel. What is Fuston going to do? He has to try to keep himself alive. There's a Mortal Coil from Walrix onto Burley, onto Fuston. They still have a lot of damage, a lot of momentum. Burley might have to drop out the Spirit Link Totem. Asgroth on 40% mana. Burley way ahead in that regard. If DHDK Nation can hold on, things are going to be looking good.
I actually wonder if, I mean, at this point you've got to keep going for it, but I wonder if you can just run the Paladin over, or even split some of your resources onto the Paladin as well. The Grip and triple stun is a nice play there. Asgarath has to make a big trade on his Glidier's Medallion. He won't be able to get a crowd control. His whole team is low on health. He needs 10 more seconds, 9 more seconds to make it to his big healing cooldown. If he doesn't make it to that point, then they're going to be out of the tournament. 3 more seconds. Walrix under pressure. Tons of damage. Avenging Wrath available. Asgarath needs to connect the Holy Light. If they disrupt it, Fuston jumps over and imprisons it. If they can keep stopping this Holy Light, they are going to kill Walrix. Blessing of Protection, can they remove it? They stun Fuston to deny the Demon Hunter's Dispel on that Blessing of Protection. He is going to be able to stay alive. Burley sits through the blind. A greedy play on his part, but it looks like he's going to get away with it. There was so much pressure on Diabolus. Asgarath getting mana rifted for basically the last little bit of his mana, but Burley is still reluctantly sitting some crowd control. This has to be a Trinket Spirit Link. Nixie's sitting on top of him to punish it. He'll instantly stun him if he trinkets. Burley's not a crowd control. Just press Spirit Link, win the game, I think, at this point. There's no cooldowns for Asgarath. One more mana rift and he's totally tapped. Just put a couple of interrupts into the Paladin even, and I think the Warlock is going to die. Vendetta is rolling. Nixie's trying to make a power play here and kill Fuston in what could be the last push of Diabolus' tournament.
I'm really surprised to see Burley not just trinket earlier. Walrix, he set a full blessing of protection. If Burley had just trinketed blind, he could have purged that off. They would have just won the game, but I guess it might not end up mattering. Burley actually gets interrupted, but Fuston and Joel, they have so much self-healing. They're still quite healthy in this situation. Diabolus, I think they've run out of time, Sid. Askrath, he's got no mana left. What are they going to possibly do?
I mean, at this point, what are you going to possibly do? There's no trinket, no darkness for 10. I mean, maybe you can kill the Demon Hunter with one big judgment, one big Chaos Bolt. No. This is a pretty big maybe. Your entire tournament lives riding on a sort of kind of could happen moment, but it's still possible. They stun Fuston. Walrix's Infernals have been out for some time. If he can get a Chaos Bolt, but Fuston jumped downstairs out of line of sight of the Warlock. Now hammering down Nixie, who overextended. Askrath does not have resources to heal 2 targets through the amount of pressure that DHDK Nation are omitting. Now Burley has Gyre's Medallion. He should just make an offensive push, interrupt Askrath on 1 heal and end the game. He's in Hammer of Justice, but it's Walrix who is so low on health. I doubt that he makes it out alive here. Goes for the double Mortal Coil, holds on by a thread. Whoa. Desperately trying to pull off the miracle. Askrath's Avenging Wrath came off cooldown. He's got some big heals, but he's got no mana to press them. If he even gets 1 Holy Shock, a target is going to go up on health very quickly. Askrath is pulling off a miracle right now. If his mana just regenerates whatsoever, Walrix has Unending Resolve. They blind the Death Knight. It's 3-on-1 onto Fuston, but Walrix is going to fall. He's at 1%. Can he kill the Demon Hunter with 1% health? Remaining darkness from Fuston. This is likely to make him immune to damage. There's a slim chance that a Chaos Bolt could sneak through. Roughly at 30%, but it's not going to sneak through. Askrath pulled off a miracle, keeping his team alive for whatever opportunity they could take, but it's just not enough. Walrix gates at 1% across the map, is still somehow alive, but ultimately snuffed out by the DHDK Nation.
DHDK Nation are on a tear here in the lower bracket, eliminating team after team, upsetting team after team. First changed my mind, now Diabolus eliminated by this new squad, this new team running the 1 composition. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, but what a performance from Diabolus. They almost won that one. And we got to give Birdie some criticism here. He's sitting up blind when Warwix he has a blessing of protection on like 2%. Just trinket, purge it, win the game. And not only that, but he sat through a Hammer of Justice, a sap, a resap, and then he had to use a Spirit Link. And then as a result of that, Fuston always goes down here at the end as well. So I don't know. I wasn't entirely sold there on the execution at the end of this one. But to Diabolus' credit, I will say that the composition worked a lot better than I thought initially. They had a good performance. And right here, this would have just been an easy Spirit Link for Burley to keep Fuston alive. Luckily, the darkness rotated back and the light at the end of Asgrath's tunnel was ultimately shut down there. Of course, a nice little hex there as well at the end of this game to make sure that Asgrath is not going to pull off any more miracles here and keep Warwix alive against all odds with no mana left.
You know what I learned?
What did you learn?
You never unspec out of Soul Rending.
Yeah.
As a Demon Hunter,
Soul Rending is pretty good.
There's no reason to unspec out of it.
It seemed pretty powerful in this situation, but that's kind of crazy. I think we do have to shout out Diabolus there because that composition, we all said it on the desk. Maybe it worked out slightly better than we thought, but they should not win that matchup. That matchup is heavily favored towards the DHDK Shaman, and I mean, clearly, you know, pulling out all the stops to try win, but it wasn't enough. They did not have an answer for this team. And now if we have a look at the bracket, we will have DHDK Nation able to pull through to the top 4, which is absolutely incredible. You know, we're talking about all these teams, ranking them. Now a new contender comes out looking hot. And I mean, based on this tournament, that's a summer finals finish, but they're going to have to be consistent in all metas.
Yep, they have to be consistent in all metas. Like you said, 8.2 just around the corner. So we'll have to see how they do in the rest of this tournament as well as in future tournaments if they do decide to continue to sign up.